You know it's bad when the richest man on the planet sends a message without ever saying a word? And this time, the message was loud, brutal, and impossible to miss. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were not invited to Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez-esque, ultra-exclusive Venice wedding. And Meghan, she's not just upset. According to insiders, she's absolutely fuming, not disappointed, not irritated, furious. And it wasn't because they were busy. It wasn't because they politely declined. No, they were simply never on the list. Not even at the bottom. Before we go any further, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. What you're about to hear isn't just another royal snub, it's a brutal reality. Check for two people who once believed they were the new face of global royalty. You won't want to miss what comes next. Let's be clear, this wasn't just any wedding, it was the wedding, held in the historic canals of Venice, Italy. It was a 3-day power summit disguised as a celebration. Every guest mattered. Every invite was a signal. And Meghan and Harry, once the darlings of media and monarchy alike, were left on the sidelines. The silence was louder than any denial. For Meghan, the sting runs deep. This was the kind of event she'd once dreamed of dominating, glamorous, exclusive, overflowing with the elites who shaped the entertainment and tech worlds. But instead of sipping champagne in Italy, she and Harry were nowhere to be found, and the absence spoke volumes. This isn't just about a missed party. This is about status, about influence. It's about being in versus being quietly and completely out. When Meghan exited the royal family, she didn't plan to fade into the background. Quite the opposite. She wanted to rise, to redefine what royalty meant in the modern age, to merge her past as an actress with her present as a duchess, to become a new kind of cultural icon. She thought she could pivot from palace to platform, from tiara to TED Talk, from royalty to LA elite. And for a while, it worked. The interviews, the Netflix deal, the Spotify launch, it all looked like the start of something powerful. But something shifted. The momentum stalled. The headlines lost their sparkle. The public interest, it began to waver. Now we're witnessing a different story unfold. One that's less about empowerment and more about exclusion, because what Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez did wasn't just host a wedding. They curated a guest list that read like a who's who of global relevance. Actors, executives, billionaires, power brokers, and Meghan and Harry were not part of that circle. That hurts. Especially when just a few years ago, Meghan believed she had Hollywood in her palm. She imagined herself hosting awards shows, delivering keynote speeches, gracing magazine covers, all while rubbing shoulders with the world's most influential people. She thought being a duchess would guarantee her a lifetime pass. But here's the cold truth. Titles fade. Relevance has to be earned. And right now, Meghan is discovering just how fragile her grip on fame really is. Asterisk. There was a time, not long ago, when Meghan and Harry were at the center of every conversation. They were the couple who defied the monarchy, stepped into the spotlight on their own terms, and captivated the world. Every move was dissected, every interview quoted, every appearance analyzed. But over time, the tone shifted. The sympathy began to fade. The headlines became sharper, the questions more skeptical. What began as a story of liberation started to look more like a pattern of grievance. The Oprah interview. Groundbreaking at the time, but now many see it as the moment the couple chose a narrative of conflict over reconciliation. The Netflix series, it brought in views but not the respect they hoped for. Spotify, that deal fell apart faster than anyone expected, with one executive bluntly calling them and through it all, Meghan clung to the idea that her name, her story, and her ambition would be enough to keep her at the top. But Hollywood has a short memory and a long list of replacements. And when you start burning bridges instead of building them, you're eventually left standing alone. The snub from Bezos wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. A message from the highest tier of global influence that Meghan and Harry are no longer essential, not even optional. They're absent and not missed. Insiders say Meghan is taking this hard. She's always been strategic. Every move calculated, every outfit scrutinized, every word crafted. But this kind of rejection, you can't spin it. You can't rebrand it. You can't edit it out of a documentary. It's real, and it stings. For Harry, the situation is more complex. He gave up everything: royal duties, military titles, lifelong institutions for a new life with Meghan, a life he believed would be freer, more honest, more purposeful. But freedom without direction can become disorienting, and purpose without support can feel like isolation. Behind the scenes, those close to Harry say he's questioning a lot. Was the trade worth it? Was the promise of American reinvention more illusion than opportunity? He's watching the life he left behind continue without him, smoother, quieter, more respected. And now, he's also watching the life he chose slowly slip through his fingers. The luxury of Montecito can't cover the discomfort of exclusion. And then there's the silence from the people they once considered allies. Where are the Hollywood producers, the activist circles, the media moguls? Gone, quiet, unreachable. Not one major name stepped forward to question why they weren't at the wedding. No one wrote an op-ed defending them. No friend posted a sentimental throwback in solidarity, because the people who move culture, the ones who fund the foundations and control the cameras, they've moved on, and Meghan knows it. She built her brand around being misunderstood, underestimated, cast aside, and yet rising anyway. But what happens when the world stops underestimating you and simply stops caring? The Bezos wedding was a gathering of gatekeepers, a moment of modern mythology. And when the gates opened, Meghan and Harry weren't just locked out, they weren't even acknowledged. No headline, no comment, no placeholder. They were erased. For someone like Meghan, who's built her entire second act on being seen, being ignored is the worst fate imaginable. She doesn't just want to exist in elite spaces, she wants to dominate them. She wants the world to validate her decisions, to praise her transformation, to embrace her as a new kind of royal. But in the circles that matter most, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, political donor networks, praise isn't handed out, it's earned. And lately, Meghan's earned more eye rolls than endorsements. The industry Meghan so desperately wanted to conquer sees her now not as a rising star but a fading brand. A woman whose every move feels strategic, scripted, and worst of all, desperate and hairy. He's becoming more of a background character in his own story. Once beloved as the rebellious prince with heart, now cast as the man who walked away from tradition and landed in a storm of headlines. He can't control, he's lost the protection of the crown, but hasn't gained the power to replace it. And then there's the optics, because perception is everything. Imagine the image of Amal Clooney boarding a sleek water taxi, laughing beside Beyoncé and Jay-Z. Or Leonardo DiCaprio raising a glass with Jeff Bezos on a rooftop terrace as fireworks burst over Venice. Now, imagine Meghan and Harry at home, watching it unfold on social media. Knowing that their names weren't even whispered on the guest list, that kind of visual contrast speaks louder than any scandal. It shows where the lines of inclusion are drawn. And right now, Meghan and Harry are on the wrong side of them. They tried to rewrite the rules of royalty, but they forgot power doesn't bend for long. And this isn't just about them missing a party. This is about them realizing in real time that their cultural capital is running out, that the stories they've told about racism, about media abuse, about palace trauma while powerful, are no longer enough to justify their place at the top. At some point, the world demands more than memoirs and media tours. It wants results, contributions, proof of purpose, and Meghan and Harry, for all their access and ambition, haven't delivered the most painful part. They thought they were still winning. They believed their fame insulated them from decline, that their story alone would keep them relevant. But the world has changed. Audiences are skeptical. Executives are cautious. Brands are avoiding controversy, not courting it. And in this environment, Meghan's once dazzling appeal now carries risk. Her presence at an event like the Bezos wedding might have distracted, not elevated. Her narrative, once rebellious and empowering, now feels repetitive and polarizing. So the doors didn't just close. They locked, and no one's reaching for the key. Asterisk, this wasn't just a wedding. It was a moment that revealed the current map of power. Who's in, who's out, and who's quietly being forgotten. And in that map, Meghan and Harry are no longer marked in bold. They're footnotes. Formerly royal, formerly influential. Still famous, but for all the wrong reasons. It didn't have to be this way. When they stepped away from the royal family, the world watched with fascination. They had the public's sympathy. They had momentum. They had a once-in-a-generation opportunity to redefine legacy. But instead of building something lasting, they built around themselves. The brand became about personal pain, private drama, public conflict, not about vision or leadership or real-world change. And now, they've reached a dangerous place. Not scandal, not cancellation, but something far worse in the world of fame. Irrelevance, because the elite don't care how loudly you speak, they care who listens. And right now, no one's listening. The biggest names in Hollywood, the wealthiest names in tech, the people who control what's cool, what's funded, what gets watched, they've moved on. They're forming new alliances, hosting new events, forging new icons. And Meghan and Harry, they're watching it all from the outside, wondering when the door slammed shut. And more importantly, if it will ever open again. There's a lesson here, not just for Meghan and Harry, but for anyone navigating fame, influence, and legacy. Relevance isn't about how much attention you get. It's about how much respect you keep. And in the world they once ruled, respect is everything. So what's next? Will Meghan try to launch another rebrand? A new podcast? A lifestyle brand? Another heartfelt interview? Will Harry return to the UK in search of meaning and redemption? Or will they double down, ignoring the message Venice sent? Time will tell, but one thing is clear. This wedding wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a mirror. And when Meghan looked into it, what she saw wasn't royalty, it was reality. And that reality hit harder than anything the press could have written. So if you've been watching this slow unraveling, wondering where it all went wrong, now you know it wasn't just bad headlines or failed contracts. It was this moment when the world's most powerful couple didn't even get the courtesy of a no. They just got nothing, and that silence, that was the loudest message of all. If you're as stunned by this shift as we are, don't stay on the sidelines. Hit that subscribe button now and stay locked in, because this story is far from over. Meghan and Harry still have moves to make, and when they do, we'll be right here breaking it down. This isn't just gossip, this is the new royal reality, and it's unfolding faster than anyone imagined.